Yo, 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 what's up, family? This your boy VIC93, and we are here for another episode of Vic's Takes, episode 3 to be exact. Yes, sir, we here again. I'm having a great time kicking it with y'all. I appreciate all the love and feedback y'all been showing so far. So let's get down to it. Today we got another episode of First Take. Well, excuse me. Not First Take. We won't be doing that again. We got First Things First. The topic today is we're talking about Matthew Stafford, the Georgia boy. If he prefers to stay in LA or depending on where he go, who will be Super Bowl contenders, who could use a quarterback of his caliber. We're also going to be talking about Bills or Ravens, who's going to be dominating the AFC within the next 3 years. Got some interesting topics here today. Also, for you guys, I want you guys to check out my little cousin Khalil. He's been killing it in basketball. His highlights been going viral the past 24 hours. I'm going to link that playlist down here below, so go check him out. And also check out my nephew Carson. He's killing it in hoops as well. If y'all want to see some 5 and 6 year olds hooping, definitely check out those links below. And also, like I always do, I'm gonna link the video for First Things First down below as well. Give them their credit. Thank you, Fox Sports, for allowing us content creators to use your content, unlike ESPN. Anyways, so if you're ready, let's dive right into it. Let's see what they're talking about. I'm gonna give you my thoughts and my takes as well throughout the process, and let's see how it goes. Let's check them out.
So, Brew, who would be an instant Super Bowl contender if they added Matthew Stafford?
I see Minnesota, I think, is definitely a Super Bowl contender. And in that mix, I know you'll probably say San Francisco. I think they're a contender even with Purdy. I'm going to give you two quick teams that I think will be playoff contenders. Pittsburgh probably already is, but Pittsburgh, certainly. I don't think they win the Super Bowl or get there. The Jets. Wow. If the Jets got Stafford, because you still got Breece Hall, you still got Garrett Wilson, maybe you keep Devontae. I think that defense, which already was talented, and
it would be the
Aaron
idea
Jones,
that they had behind Aaron Rodgers, but just have it
I think he's better than Rodgers at this point. So
I was with you until you said the Jets.
Okay.
So they couldn't even make the playoffs?
Oh, he's 37 years old. Do you know how many times he's been sacked?
A lot.
502 times. 500, and that's a lot of wear on those tires.
So he's washed.
And now you're going to send him into New York, who had all the problems that they had with the offensive line. Hopefully they can get those things fixed. But I can't imagine he's excited like, hey, I'm going to go play outside for a first-year head coach and a team that's been struggling, hasn't historically been able to protect the quarterback. The Minnesota idea, that makes more sense because they're much better positioned to win, similar to the way that LA was when he got traded from Detroit. I think his best shot to win the Super Bowl is staying exactly where he is and trying to figure out something to do with the money or some way to make that marriage work for another year, because that to me is both the team and his situation to win the Super Bowl.
So let me, before you go, Greg, let me add to that, because I think this is crazy by the Rams. I would pay him. I still think Matt Stafford is clearly a top 10 quarterback in this league. I think even last year, I know his passer rating was down, Brew, but I think when you watched them, when they felt like they were a team that could have made the Super Bowl, like to me all year long, and then come the playoffs, they played the Eagles better than anybody. You know what I mean? Like the Eagles blew out everyone they played, including the Chiefs. That Rams game, the Rams are kind of in control until back-to-back fumbles, and then even despite that, they have the ball at the 20-yard line down 6 with a chance to steal that football game. The idea that they're going to get a high first-round pick for him, I think, is fantasy. I saw some people like, oh, the Giants are interested. Maybe the Giants are interested for their second-round pick, not for the third pick of the draft. Like, so I don't.
Even the second-round pick. I mean, we're talking about an older quarterback going to a completely different system, to a down team who's going to be playing in inclement weather. Like,
so I agree. I don't love the fit. My point is, if I'm the Rams, yes, if I could get the 3rd pick of the draft, I'd move on from Matt Stafford.
Yeah,
That's
in
fine.
a second.
But I think they'd be getting closer to the 33rd pick than the 3rd pick. So I don't understand why this relationship seems to be fractured, because my answer is the same as coaches. Who would he make Super Bowl contenders?
Yeah.
The team he has currently made Super Bowl contenders with the Rams, with Puka, they've drafted well recently. But
or Cup,
I think they probably will lose Cup, but Cup, I kind of feel like they lost Cup after the Super Bowl. I know he's still on the team, but he had suffered so many injuries, wasn't the same guy.
And he's only $27 million in cash this year. That's what they have to pay out. And the amount of money that they'd have in the dead money.
The thing. I think he's going to end up
I think they think he won't play for that. Like that he is going to force their hand, that he has to get a new contract, which probably works into the math on this. My point is, I would pay him the money.
I would definitely pay him. He's good.
All right. I know Greg's about to give his point, but I just want to touch on a few things before he goes, because that was a lot. Chris, usually I agree with Chris, but the Jets, in my Stephen A. Smith voice, the Jets? You got to be kidding me, boy. The Jets got a lot, in my opinion, that they need to work on before they even think about Super Bowl contention. I don't think Matthew Stafford is going to change them into instant Super Bowl contenders. I just don't see it happening. Yeah, they got some weapons and everything, but that organization is just not ran well. I'm sorry. I'm not taking an old quarterback, putting him on that team and thinking, yeah, we're gonna win a Super Bowl. Look how well that went with Aaron Rodgers, and he had a decent season statistically last year. So yeah, that you can miss me with that. Minnesota, I agree with Coach and Chris that could be interesting. However, I'm not 100% sold on Minnesota. They had a real good season last year with what's his name, seeing the ghosts with the ghost quarterback. Yeah, they was pretty good, but I mean, let's be honest, like they really were what Green Bay was supposed to be. Jordan Love fell off a little bit last year. He regressed, and I think that's why the Packers kind of had a mediocre season. They didn't do much in the playoffs. They got beat in the first round versus the Eagles. The Eagles pretty much handled the Packers like twice this year. So, yeah, they got their number. But, I mean, Minnesota they do have a good team. And, having Matthew Stafford might make them a little better than they were last year. But will they be Super Bowl contenders? I'm just not sold on that. I mean, Philly, they got a hold on the NFC. Detroit is going to be healthy next year. And they're the ones they beat Minnesota last year with all they had. I think that Detroit, they'll get even better. So they'll be owning that division. The Packers, I think they're going to be better. Washington is going to get better. The Commanders, they was in the NFC title game. So that division is going to be tough to come out of if he does go over there. If I was Matthew Stafford, I think the Rams would be the best choice. The Rams, they got a good young team. Their defense was young, but they came along after the injuries. They started off injury riddled at the beginning of the season. And shout out my boy Rico. That's his squad, LA Rams. Yes, sir. I saw y'all last year, man. They definitely made some noise, man, with that defense. And then when Nuka, when he got healthy, hey, he was going off. I know they losing Cooper Kupp. That's a slight blow. We'll see how they bounce back from that. But yeah, I wouldn't bank on the Jets at all. Sam Darnold had a miracle year last year, and then we saw how he looked in the last two games when they were the most meaningful, especially in the playoffs. So yeah, I'm not completely sold on Minnesota getting Matthew Stafford. If I was him, I think I'd stick with the Rams. That's just my opinion, but let's see what Greg's take is.
Good enough. He's proven he's one of those. He's one of the better quarterbacks. You can go down a list of guys. You're shaking your head.
No, I'm
he
shaking
was
my head.
older.
I'm shaking my head. And he's under contract for this year and next year.
Right.
He's gotten plenty of money.
Yeah,
But he has
totally
made a
get
lot
that.
of money.
If you don't want to play for this dollar amount, then go to the beach.
So
I'm with Coach on that.
I don't think when as far as finding a team that would be Super Bowl, like the Minnesota Vikings, yes. Outside of that, I don't know if there's a team that he can. I don't agree with you with the Jets. I think there's a team that he can go to in the AFC South that would make them a contender definitely to win the AFC South, and that's the Indianapolis Colts. Which, if you get in with Matt Stafford, if you get in the playoffs, he's dangerous because as you have it, he's not a civilian guy at quarterback. He's one of those guys that can put on a cape and he can carry a team and do some damage in the postseason. With them having a running game, offensive line, they have weapons at the receiver position. Like they have a team that's set up. You have a young guy that isn't really doing anything right now. He probably could use some tutelage. I think
here's the thing though about Stafford, and Nick will get mad, but it's true. It's out of your playbook too. Without the Avengers, all right, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, he was not very good.
He won a Super Bowl without Puka Nacua.
Oh, that was a few years ago, and Kupp was at his
peak. That is true.
right. And so he has not. Last year he was not good without those guys. So I don't know. I mean, he's 37, like Coach said.
The Colts idea is that's an interesting idea, and I think that's an organization.
I'm sorry, I can't let Chris slide with that argument. What he's referring to as the Avengers level team, they're referring to 49ers with their quarterback. What's the quarterback's name? He was Mr. Irrelevant. They're using that reference because they had such a loaded squad around him that it made him look good as far as like, his stats and stuff like that. He was dinking and dunking to some guys and they were getting a lot of yards after catch. And they were saying, would he still be that good if he didn't have the help around him? Hold on. I'm having a brain fart. I know his name. I don't know why I can't think of it. Let's see. Brock Purdy. That's his name. Brock Purdy. So Brock Purdy for the 49ers, and he had Deebo Samuel. You had George Kittle. You had Christian McCaffrey. They basically called them the Avengers because when he didn't have all the weapons healthy, he played a little, not as well as he played when all of them were healthy, basically. So they were saying that, he needs the Avengers to be successful. That's what Nick's argument was for Brock. So I think Chris is trying to use that same argument for Matthew Stafford, but I would argue that any quarterback in the league needs playmakers to be successful. Like, let's be honest. Like, I understand that when we're nitpicking and comparing quarterback to quarterback, yes, you do take into account the help that they have around them. But as far as like your success on the field, like, I'm not going to knock Matthew Stafford because he didn't play as well without Puka and Cooper Kupp. I mean, those are two great receivers. So, of course, if you don't have both of them on the field, you're not going to play as good. Or if Brock Purdy doesn't have his guys, he's not going to play as good because, he don't have the top dogs. That's with anybody. Like, yes, we do expect the great quarterbacks to be able to elevate the team if they don't have those guys, but I'm not gonna judge a quarterback so harshly when they don't have everybody on the field. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I disagree with that on Chris Broussard, but let's see what they got to say next.
Now, and a GM who's at a spot where you better like we're getting to the end of the road here. You better find some answer. It hasn't worked out with the guy that you drafted, and if you go get a guy like him and with the hopes that he makes the young guy better by being around and then gives you a real life chance to win now, that makes sense.
And I think something that we probably, well, you mentioned it, the inclement weather. Like him being in Detroit in a dome his entire career, playing Minnesota twice, and they're in a dome.
Yep.
Obviously going to LA, being on the West Coast. I don't know if he wants to go somewhere where he's going to be in cold weather.
I agree. It's one of the reasons I think the Giants thing doesn't make sense, is that none of those teams are in a dome. It's bad, you know what I mean? It's Northeast. It's bad weather. It's also why this is, I threw this out there 6 weeks ago, and I think people misconstrued. They made it seem like I don't think as highly of Stafford as I do. But a trade that I think, if you squint, makes sense for both teams and answers this question is the rare quarterback for quarterback trade, which he was involved in once before, obviously, which is Matt Stafford for Tua. And the argument there is that the Rams get younger and, oddly, a little cheaper at quarterback because some of that bonus money by Tua has been paid out and you have cost certainty there. And I think the idea from Sean McVay should be, we have seen Tua at his best, what he can be, and I bet Sean McVay, I understand it's a different system than Mike McDaniel, but looks at himself as the premier, offensive mind in football, not Mike McDaniel. And if you're the Dolphins, it's, man, we probably have one more year with Tyreek, one more year where, this whole group gets to run together before the bills that we have put on the credit card come due. Let's go for it right now. I understand it's the AFC East, so you have a lot of bad weather road games, but you're in Miami, so for good weather there. That, to me, I think Stafford is far better than Tua, but he's 10 years older. And so if you're the Rams, it gives you the opportunity that maybe you're not starting over entirely at quarterback. You can keep it rolling with the guy who's under contract. And I think that would make, I don't know how you feel, Brew, that would make the Dolphins far scarier than they are right now for this coming season. It would mean, you know what I mean, they have to figure it out down the road, but that would make them very scary to me.
No, hell no. Tua for Stafford? Hold on. First of all, Matthew Stafford going to the Dolphins, I don't think that makes them that much better because, first of all, the division they're in, they got to go against the Bills. Is Matthew Stafford going to make the Dolphins better than the Bills, or at least make the Dolphins be able to compete with the Bills? I'm not sure about that. And Tyreek Hill wants out of the Dolphins anyway. So is Matthew Stafford, an older quarterback that's going to be there for maybe a year or two, is that going to make Tyreek want to stay? I doubt that. And on the flip side, Tua to L.A. If I'm L.A. Rams, why the hell would I want Tua? Yes, he's younger, but what's the point of being young if you're always hurt? Tua can't stay on the field. I'm sorry. And I wish him the best of luck. I hope that he can stay healthy for the rest of his career. I swear to, right hand to God. I hope he's healthy. I hope he can stay healthy. But hey, I'm not putting my check on it. I'm not signing off on that. I just can't. We've seen way too much evidence of Tua not being able to stay healthy. So that makes zero sense. I also don't. Whoever said the Giants, was that Chris? I think Chris Broussard mentioned them. Why the hell would Matthew Stafford want to go to the Giants anyway? They first of all, they wouldn't be contenders. Second of all, they're a trash franchise. Look how they did Saquon. I'll never let Giants community live down how they botched the Saquon Barkley deal. You sign Daniel Jones, you let Saquon go. Saquon goes and leads the Eagles to a Super Bowl, and Daniel Jones isn't even on your roster anymore. One of the biggest flops in recent memory with dealing running backs has to be not even just running back, just a generational talent player in general. The Giants screwed that up. They screwed that up with him Also with Odell, I know Odell had some off the field issues and stuff like that, throwing tantrums and stuff. But I mean, yeah, nobody's going to the Giants willingly. You you got to get drafted to go to the Giants at this point. But yeah, that take Nick just did with the Dolphins, whoo, that had my head spinning, boy. I'm telling you.
Obviously, both teams are in good shape over the next 3 years. I think the window, like if I pick the team, they both need to win it ASAP.
Yeah.
But I think more so for the Ravens because of Derrick Henry. Like he's 31, he'll be in his 10th year next year. He was awesome this year, obviously. But how many more of those years does he have? It doesn't even have next year in him. I think he does, but that's not a guarantee, and certainly not after that. And a part of me, initially when I looked at this, I said, you know what? Lamar's smaller. They're both 28. Both quarterbacks 28 will be in their 8th year. Lamar's smaller. He runs. And at his size, is he going to last as long
And
as
he's
a
had
running
more injuries
quarterback?
than Josh.
Yeah, as Josh. But then I thought about, well, Cam Newton was even a little bit bigger than Josh as far as weight. And his career, he took too many hits. And then I think Josh takes harder hits than Lamar.
I think Josh takes more of a game-to-game
much
pounding
more
than
physical
Lamar
pounding.
Jackson.
More vertically.
Yeah. Lamar is very shifty about getting out of the way, not taking big hits. So I'm going to go with the Ravens that I keep because I think Lamar clearly, to me, not clearly, they're both good passers. But I think, look at this, for their careers, Lamar has been the better passer as far as passer rating.
So that's a shocking stat that I find.
And remember, this includes Lamar's early years when he wasn't as good of a quarter. I know his second year he was great at passing numbers, but he's gotten better as a passer. So I think Lamar.
I think most people would think this is fake. I think if like this screenshot gets shared on
What?
the internet, people will be like, "That's manipulated." Because the thing that jumps out to me is
How is
that
this manipulated?
Josh has never had sustained back-to-back great passing seasons. You know what I mean? He has been, some called him a roller coaster at times. You know what I mean? As far as a passer, he has been, and he also has been the last couple years kind of a more devastating runner than Lamar in a different way. So the way we view him, because I do think people believe, and I believe, that Josh is the more kind of manicured pocket passer and a guy that in a drop back passing game you trust more. But the stats say that Lamar's been the more consistent guy. Go ahead.
I know you guys probably.
No. And again, hell no. Nobody thinks Josh Allen is, well, at least I don't think Josh Allen is better pocket passer than Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen has always had a better receiving core than Josh Allen. He didn't take off until he got Stephon. When the Bills got Stephon Diggs in that trade from Minnesota, Josh's career skyrocketed as far as passing. Lamar Jackson was doing it with guys with Mark Andrews, hell. And as far as I'm concerned, Baltimore was the better team in that AFC divisional game versus Buffalo. Baltimore beat themselves. Yes, some of that was on Lamar Jackson, but critical plays cost them the game. Mark Andrews' fumble when they was driving down the field before the last drive, and then the next drive you dropped a 2-point conversion. Like, those are key plays that you gotta have to beat teams in the playoffs, and they didn't make those plays. They shot themselves in the foot too many times that night, and that's why Buffalo beat them. But in my opinion, Baltimore is going to be the best team in the AFC in the next few years. Buffalo looks good, though. Buffalo is definitely going to be good. They're going to be up there. Buffalo, of course, Kansas City, Baltimore. It's going to be some other teams that's creeping up, depending on how this draft shakes out. But in my opinion, yeah, I think Baltimore is definitely going to be one of those teams. They definitely still need a number one receiver. Zay Flowers, I love him. He's good, but he's not a true number one, if that makes sense. I feel like Zay Flowers is more of a gadget guy. He could be a solid number 2, but they need a solid number 1. Mark Andrews is not reliable. He is not reliable. I'm sorry. Like, he'll get some good numbers in the regular season, but in the postseason, he doesn't show up. He doesn't show up in big games. From what I've seen, and I'm not one of those guys that just talking because I saw that last game. Like, I had him on my fantasy team. Ask anybody that had Mark Andrews on their fantasy team, and they'll tell you the guy is not reliable on a day-to-day, on a game-to-game basis. I'm sorry. So yeah, they need a number 1 receiver. They definitely got to get somebody in there for Lamar to take some pressure off of them, because that running game is elite. But when people key in on the running game, then and he has to make those certain throws, he needs somebody that can beat one-on-one coverage, consistently beat one-on-one coverage. So yeah, I completely disagree with Nick on that take. Like, just because y'all love Josh Allen don't mean he's better than Lamar. I mean, Lamar put up stupid numbers this year, killing Josh's numbers. Lamar's been killing Josh since he got into the league, to be honest with you. And y'all just saw the numbers. I'm not lying. Stats don't lie. Lamar's been killing it. Yes, Josh beat him in the playoffs, but the Bills had way more talent on the offensive side of the ball than the Ravens did, as far as on the weapons of the offense. And I think the Ravens were outcoached as well. Definitely were outcoached in both of those playoff meetings. But hey, that's just my opinion. Let's see what Coach got to say.
I think that I'm going to go with Buffalo.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because I assume you're going to be right.
But
I always assume you're going to be right.
But as the only member of the first ever Ravens team in the history of the NFL, when we transitioned from the Cleveland Browns to the Baltimore Ravens, I'm going to go with Baltimore.
All right, Coach.
I mean, I'd rather live in Baltimore than Buffalo. If I had to choose, no disrespect to Buffalo, but if I was making that choice.
Sure.
And then when you look at the teams overall, so Lamar's only had 1 losing season since he's been there, and that was the year that he got dinged up at the end of the year. I think it would have probably, and I thought Buffalo had gotten over the hump from a salary cap perspective, but they're $12 million over the cap right now versus Baltimore, who's $9 million under the cap. So their ability to improve the team, Baltimore, at least in the short term, has a better ability to do that. When you look at the draft, Baltimore's got 12 draft picks, and that's something they've always put an emphasis on, and they draft well. So from an organizational perspective, I would imagine that Baltimore is going to be continue to be successful. And really, it all just comes down to which quarterback do you like better. And from a passing perspective, I like Josh better. From a dangerous, the pressure that someone puts on the defense, I think Lamar puts a unique pressure on the defense that I would lean towards him.
You're right, Coach.
Why do they think
interesting? Because I mean,
Josh is a better passer?
These guys, and I
don't understand that.
The health. Josh Allen doesn't miss games.
No.
And so he's
even if he has to kind of fake play one to keep a streak alive, but he never misses games. Yeah.
And so I thought about that, but then as Coach was talking, and he's going Baltimore, and Brew's going Baltimore, I'm all about Allen's Alpine.
Yeah, of course.
But for this is not just about the quarterback; it's about the totality of the team, and I really like where Baltimore is.
You guys are out of your minds.
However,
okay, thank you.
I got to go with the Buffalo Bills and here's why. Like, a lot of times we look at the Baltimore Ravens and we say, well, because Derrick Henry, they have all these. James Cook is one of those undervalued pieces that he gets it done in the
I do like James Cook.
He gets it done in the passing game. When you look at them defensively, like, they seem to always win when it matters. Like Lamar and Josh head to head in the regular season, Lamar has them. Yeah. But in the postseason, you know who Lamar turns into? He turns into the Josh Allen towards Patrick Mahomes as it pertains to the postseason, where Josh can't beat Mahomes in the postseason, but he beats him in the regular season. That's Lamar versus Josh Allen.
He's 0-2. 2 games. One was years ago.
He's 0-2.
One was a few weeks ago.
Exactly. And he was coming off of his best year we've ever seen him. I love the trajectory that Lamar is on, but where I'm looking at the Buffalo Bills is, like they're going to improve their roster. They did what they did this
Coach
year.
just gave you the numbers.
They're minus 12
Yeah.
million.
This, I understand.
But
I'm saying from a skills perspective of maturation, receivers, they're going to get better.
They also have the best offensive line in the conference. And the one thing that I'm shocked no one has mentioned is this.
The conference?
The division. Yeah. I mean, they are, if I look across the league, the Bills are the only team in the league that I feel almost 100% certain, including the Chiefs, that over the next 3 years, they're going to be hosting a playoff game every year.
Yeah.
Because and again, that's not a knock on the Chiefs, but it's there's real competition. There's other legitimate teams in that division. There's obviously at least one, if not two other very legitimate teams in the AFC North. The AFC East is in a very similar position it was in for Brady's career, except for the fact that it is now the Bills being where the Patriots were, where there are times where a team pops up, but it's a constant upheaval at coaches, constant upheaval at quarterbacks for those other spots. So I think the Bills are in that position. Their offensive line is locked up, which was the strength of their team. And I just do trust Josh far more than I trust Lamar down the stretch of the season and in the postseason. I think Josh has earned that. I think Josh has earned the right to be called right now the second best playoff quarterback in football. As Jalen Hurts could argue he's earned that right, but the second best in the AFC. And so to me, it's Buffalo easily.
I think the division is an issue.
The only reason Josh has been in those positions, though, is because of the division. Just like Nick just mentioned, Lamar has a way tougher road to get to the playoffs than Josh. So yeah, Josh is gonna, he's gonna have an advantage in that aspect of it. But I do love Greg Jennings' point about James Cook. James Cook is a beast. I love his game. He's one of the great running backs in this league, Lil Cook. And also, Nick did make a good point about the line. Buffalo does have a real good offensive line, but I just disagree, very, very strongly disagree with how he judges Josh and Lamar. Like, Josh is not that much better, if better at all, than Lamar. I'm sorry, I just don't see it. I don't see it. Yes, Buffalo beat the Ravens. That's the only argument you can say is Buffalo beat the Ravens. But I did see Lamar Jackson and them go out there and stomp Buffalo in the regular season. And the main reason Baltimore lost in that game versus Buffalo was self-inflicted wounds. The Ravens made mistakes on their own. It wasn't like Buffalo came in there and caused all these mistakes. They did rush Lamar, made him, rush that one throw where he threw that interception. But the other mistakes was just mistakes on the Ravens. When the center threw the snap over Lamar's head and Lamar was trying to do too much and fumbled the ball, that was on the Ravens. When Mark Andrews fumbled the ball, he was trying to juke and stuff, doing stuff he don't never do, that was on the Ravens. When Mark Andrews drops that 2-point conversion to tie the game, that's on the Ravens. Like, Buffalo didn't make any plays that made me think, oh, yeah, this team is better than Baltimore. Josh is better than Lamar. I just didn't see it. Just Josh didn't make any mistakes. That was the only difference. But as far as who's better, Lamar Jackson is far better, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion.
But as we've talked about, Pittsburgh hasn't been able to get over the hump from a quarterback perspective, so they're always sort of in that middle of the 500.
Really Cincinnati.
And then Cincinnati, they have Joe Burrow, but they find a way to struggle every season when you think they shouldn't. And then Cleveland is stuck where they are. I'm encouraged by the AFC East in the sense of picking up Vrabel and now picking up Aaron Glenn. So I think those organizations have a chance to elevate. Will it necessarily be next season? No, but I don't think it's going to necessarily be the cakewalk.
I think long term that might be the case. But if I'm just looking at the next 3 years, like
3 years in the NFL
is a long time. No, that's fair. I just
Most people
don't.
are fired by that.
I don't. I look at, and I'll throw this to you, Brew, and then we move on. I think it's just basically off the board that Buffalo has a disaster season. And I think Baltimore, whether it is because of the way we saw their defense play at the beginning of this year, or Lamar getting hurt the previous couple of years, we've seen Baltimore have that down year out of nowhere, and that to me would lead.
Well, their down
But
year
the down
was
years
9
are if
and
he's sick,
8, right?
If he gets he's had these colds,
Yes.
little injuries that aren't that serious, but slight injuries.
But
But outside of that, he hasn't had. They don't have a down year when he's healthy.
No, I know, but the Bills don't have one at all. I mean, the Bills every single year win that division.
They do.
Every single year win 10 games. Every single year in the
The
playoffs.
division is right, but I think, and I would give Josh the slight. He's certainly been better than Lamar in the playoffs. But I thought Lamar, even though he had the fumble and and that could have pretty much cost him the game, he took steps this year.
I
You talk
agree with
about
that.
it, Pittsburgh, not only Pittsburgh, period, but Pittsburgh in the playoffs,
And
then played well against Buffalo.
Nick's not like me. He's not a Lamar guy. I've been a Lamar guy forever.
This is so.
I'm doing the brew.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm a Lamar
Yeah,
guy.
he's a Lamar. No, that is
I'm
true.
a
He's
Lamar
always
guy
been a Lamar
forever.
guy. Everybody knows that. All right, coming up next, one of Brew's guys, Wimby.
I'm just, this one threw me for a little doozy with some of their takes. This episode made me miss my boy Wilds. Where's Wilds? Yeah, Wilds isn't here today. That's my boy Kevin Wilds, man. We need him. But other than that, yeah, I just think Matthew Stafford, I'll just give my final takes here before we go. Matthew Stafford needs to stay in LA. That's his best option to get to the Super Bowl. The Rams got a decent squad. He could go to Minnesota. However, I think him going to Minnesota is a lateral move. He's going to be in a tougher division with Green Bay and Detroit. I'd rather stay in LA and take my chances with the 49ers. They're losing some pieces. Brock Purdy still hasn't signed a contract yet, so I don't know what they're going to do with the quarterback situation over there. Arizona is decent, but they don't scare me. And, I think the Rams is the best option for him. And as far as Buffalo versus the Ravens, I mean, we're going to be talking about this all year for the next few years. I mean, they're two of the top 3 teams in the AFC for sure. I know Bengals are going to be better, so it's going to be a lot tougher for the Ravens. Bengals are not going to have the season like they had last year. I think Joe Burrow and those guys are going to be significantly better this next year, if not next year, in the next few years. But I'm rocking with Lamar, bro. Lamar is one of those special kind of players that we've never seen before. And I know he has struggles in the playoffs, but I blame a lot of that not just on him. I blame that on the organization for not putting the guys around him. And I know they're going to say, well, look at the guys. He had a bunch of guys around him this year. Look at all the weapons he had this year. They had a receiver drafted in the first round for the last 2 or 3 years, Duvernay and Zay Flowers. But look at how they produce. Zay Flowers was the first receiver that the Ravens have sent to the Pro Bowl ever. And that's a coincidence? Like, come on, bro. Like, they haven't had a number 1 wide receiver since Anquan Bolden, bro. Let's be real. Let's be real. Only the Lamar Jackson haters are going to say that he has all the weapons and he's had the best team his whole career. Like, stop it. The Ravens, when Joe Flacco was on the way out and Lamar was on the way in, that roster was far from perfect. It's still not perfect. It's good on the surface, but they definitely have some holes they need to fill to be able to compete, with the Chiefs and with the top teams in the league. Lamar can only do so much. You expect a quarterback to put the team on your back, but in a lot of situations, like especially when you get to the playoffs, it's a lot harder to overcome certain things that you can overcome in the regular season. Josh is a great player, though. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to knock Josh. It's just that I feel like he's been getting a lot of praise lately and a lot of his bad play gets overlooked because of the end result. And the team, and I'm not gonna lie though, the team did do better than I thought they were gonna do this year. They made it to the AFC Championship game. I thought they was gonna take a step back after the players they lost and stuff like that, but they did something a little different this year. They leaned more into the run game, which what Greg pointed out with James Cook. You know, if they would have did that last year, they probably would have been better last year with Stephon. You know, like people try to give Stephon the bad guy token, and you know it really wasn't all on him. The play calling has been a little, in my opinion, was mismanaged with Buffalo last year. They got a little more balance this year. There was a lot more run heavy, and it works out. You keep Josh from making those silly mistakes that he used to make, and now you run the ball, be more effective. You know, make precise throws when you need to, and that's the ingredients for a good team. Well, that's my take on it, fellas. Again, like I said, I'm going to link the video down below for this episode if y'all want to check it out on your own. Also, my little cousin Khalil, I got his highlights down there. My nephew Carson, I got his highlights down there. If y'all want to see some youth basketball highlights, go ahead and check that out. I appreciate y'all for joining me for episode 3. Episode 4 on the way. Holla at your boy. Peace.